So I wanted to jump on here really quick and try to answer a question that I get asked all the time. This question came from the beginning when Jaden was first diagnosed with testicular cancer in 2022 to now. I mean, I get this question all the time. And people ask, are you mad at God? Or they'll say, oh, I would be so mad at God if I were you. I'm not mad at God. I've never once been mad at God. I've never shook my fist and said, well, why me? You know, it's one of those things where I look at it in a way where people say, why me? Well, why not me? Okay. I look at it like God has such faith in me and confidence in me to one, be Jaden's mom, because he's autistic and he's just special. And that's a compliment to me, that he trusts me with Jaden. Another thing, the fact that God gave me this task to go through life, to not only be Jaden's mom, but to go through this cancer journey with him. I've learned so much about myself. I love who I am. I love who God's called me to be. I can't sit here and say that it hasn't been hard, because it's been extremely hard. There's been so much that's gone on in my life, for 2.5, 3 years, where I didn't know what the next day was going to be, but we're on the other side of it, and there's things we're still dealing with, but we are on the other side of things. And I see so much growth and so much change in myself, in my kids, in my life, and I feel super blessed. God saw things that we didn't, and brought a lot to the surface, but that's for a whole nother day. But I'll go back to talking about if I was mad with God, and the answer is no. I remember being with Jaden in the hospital this last transplant when he was not doing well at all. We were in the hospital for about 12 days. His organs weren't doing well. It's like they were shutting down. Everything was declining. Jaden said to me, I don't think that I'm going to walk out of here. I don't think I'm leaving. I said, oh, yes, you are. You are leaving. We're leaving. We're not staying here. And then I asked him, can I pray for you? And he said, yeah. And the thing about Jaden is, there's been so many times when we would go into, right before a visit, we'd be sitting in the car, and I would say, Jaden, can I pray for you? And he'd say, no. And I said, well, too bad. I'm going to pray for you. So I would always put my hands on him, on his chest and on his back, and I just would pray for him. And at that day, when we went to the first visit with the oncologist, after he had his testicle removed, I remember praying that prayer, and I remember already feeling victorious, already feeling that we have seen victory, even though I didn't know what the next day was going to be. I didn't know that it was going to go on for 2 years. I had no idea, but I had complete faith that God was going to make us see victory throughout the end of this. And little did I know of all of what was going on at the time, but I had faith the whole time. So going back to Jaden, not letting me pray for him, or not wanting me to. I mean, I made him. I was going to pray for him either way. To going back to that hospital room where he stayed and he wasn't doing well, when he literally thought that he was dying. Okay, so when I said to him that time, Jane, can I pray for you? And when he said yes, that's when I knew he was scared. And things felt so much bigger at that moment in time because he trusted God at that moment. And I think when you're younger, things aren't, as what they seem until you get a little bit older and you live through a couple of tragedies. But when he said yes, I had chills all over my body. Okay, so I prayed for him and I let him know, God's got you. God's got you. Even though I didn't know what the next day was going to be, I knew that God had us taken care of. I've hit my knees hard praying. I cried myself to sleep. I remember sleeping in this little recliner. I didn't really sleep, but I didn't eat. I literally prayed any chance I got. But when I prayed for Jaden, mind you, he was doing really bad. Okay, he had received a lot of blood, a lot of platelets. His kidneys weren't functioning properly. His blood pressure was out of control. There was no end in sight of us leaving. I'll tell you that. So when I prayed for him and I put my hands on him like I always do, and one on his chest and one on his back because he was sitting up, and I just prayed. And don't know the prayer that I prayed, I couldn't tell you, but I know that those weren't my words. So Jaden lays back down and, he goes back to sleep. And I remember the next day, the doctor came in his room and said, well, things look like they're getting better. And his levels are leveling out and his blood pressure's getting better. He was on a lot of blood pressure medication. And it's like it happened overnight. It was incredible. And I'll never forget that day that I prayed, not knowing that the doctor was going to say that we were going to be going home at the end of the week. Okay, this was a huge victory. So as she's checking him out that same day, we all start crying, and Jaden included. Jaden started crying, which made me start crying, which made the doctor start crying. And it was that day that I think changed me forever. And seeing the doctor say, you know what, I'm just going to let you go home today. And it wasn't home. We were at an Airbnb, but it's changed me. And not to say that I wasn't a huge believer. I've always been a believer. God saved me so many times. But I will say, having complete faith is what got me through. I've never once thought, why God? Why me? Instead, I kept thanking God before all this was over. While we were walking through the storm, I kept thanking God for the woman that I was going to be on the other side of this. I kept thanking God for the victory that we have. I thank God for delivering me from the situation that I was in. So no, I am not mad at God. I'm very thankful that I know Him and He's brought me this far.